Church of Direct Experience. This is November 2024 for the returning members. Lovely to see you. For anyone who's new, we're so glad to have you with us. The Church of Direct Experience is our public front-facing offering at the Temple of Wholeness. The Temple of Wholeness is a 501c3 church organization dedicated to creating more truth, more goodness, and more beauty in the world through deep healing, profound personal transformation, and ecstatic spiritual awakening. So every month we do these experiences to give those in our community a taste of who they are at a deeper level and what we can do as a community together. So we're honored and delighted to have you with us. This month we are exploring receiving your soul's wisdom, which is an exciting topic, and we're going to explore 3 different methods for doing this. So buckle your spiritual selves in and we'll get rolling here. For those of you who are new, format is we'll start out with a practice for becoming embodied, an invocation and a way to open up awareness, settle the mind, and get back into the physical form. Then we'll do a transmission and end with a prayer. So lovely to see you all. Thank you for being with us. And Amber, we can roll.
Wonderful. So wonderful to be with you all today. Thank you for being here, everybody who made it through the technological gauntlet. We're happy to be here with you in this moment. So to begin, inviting everyone to settle into your seat, allow yourself to become nice and comfortable, settling in a way that your spine can be straight. And as you find that positioning, allowing the eyes to gently close. And as the eyelids close, we begin to draw our attention and our gaze inwards. So allowing the breath to begin to deepen and lengthen. And as we do so, with each in-breath, we allow it to focus our attention more fully inwards. So as we inhale, we draw more of our attention into the interior, allowing our energy to potentize into the core of the body. And as we exhale, we begin to allow the relaxation response to cascade down through the body, noticing how you can give over a little bit more fully to the surface that's supporting you, offering yourself more fully to the embrace of gravity, constantly inviting you to rest more fully downwards towards the earth. So a few simple rounds of this breath, drawing more of your awareness into presence in this moment with each in-breath. Allowing a little bit more relaxation with each out-breath. Feeling the sense of settling into the here and now, arriving into this place that we find ourselves. And noticing as we rest in and down, relaxing more fully in towards the root, that the spine can naturally begin to straighten a little bit more. From that rootedness, there's a natural lifting that becomes more available. And see if you can follow that all the way up to the crown of the head and feeling that simultaneous rootedness, sit bones rooting downwards, crown of the head gently lifting upwards, and feeling the dignity of this posture. Feeling as the spine straightens that the energy can begin to flow more fluidly through the spine, up and down, spiraling through this central channel. And now allowing the breath to be fully guided into this central channel. With each in-breath, we begin to breathe from above the crown, actively receiving the breath as a golden stream of restorative source light, flowing in through the crown and collecting and gathering, directing that energy down through the throat, through the heart, and allowing that breath to arrive into the belly, swelling here at the belly. And as you exhale, allow that energy to continue flowing downwards through the sacrum, all the way to the very tip of the coccyx, to the perineum, and let your awareness hover here at this point, at this doorway at the root. And we're going to maintain our attention here at the center and to locate it more precisely in space. Go ahead and allow yourself to squeeze the muscles that you would engage to stop the stream of urination. And go ahead and feel that, give it a few pulses to feel that spot, this potent doorway at the root. Now squeeze it fully, as tightly as you can, and then release it by about halfway, and then halfway again, so that there's just a very small amount of tension being held here at this point in space. Now we're going to give some loving attention to the root here to allow ourselves to both ground more fully into this moment towards the earth and to open more space for receiving all that is here for us today. So as we continue to maintain our attention at this point, a gentle contraction here, we're going to inhale from just a couple of feet below the perineum. As we inhale, we draw up from this point, feeling a gentle increase of that contraction, as if you're sipping up through this point, receiving the energy into the root. Let it fill up your entire pelvic bowl. And keep breathing, filling to the top of the in-breath. And just hover for a few seconds at the top of that breath, feeling all of the energy gather here, to stack and to build. And as you exhale, maintain that slight contraction, but relax it just a little bit down towards the earth. Imagining this point's like a diaphragm. So as you inhale, it gently lifts upwards in towards the pelvic floor, and feeling all of the sensations as you focus here. And as you exhale, maintaining that gentle contraction, yet release it just a little bit towards the earth. So staying in this simple breath and practice, holding the focus, this one point, paying very close attention to the sensations that you notice. Allowing the ground of our being here to be fully energized. Continue to pay close attention to what you notice in the sensations here, breath by breath. How does it change? Do you feel more here within the center than you did when you started? Is there any pulsation, any slight quivering or vibrations? Can you feel this sense of energy gathering and building, focalizing, simply by focusing your attention and directing the breath? Beginning to add the layer of visualization of this entire region of the body, the entire base of the spine, the pelvic bowl, this entire region filling with light. rich, warm, nourishing light, stabilizing, fortifying. And as it fills and the energy continues to gather here, imagining like the trunk of a tree that widens at the base, feeling this sense of greater substantiation here. Feeling the solidity of your connection to the earth holding this body in space, of gravity constantly drawing you towards the heart of the mother. And just for these next few breaths, just allowing yourself to really feel this sense of security, of safety, sense of I belong here. And now slowly beginning to breathe upwards from the center. And as you breathe upwards, drawing this sense of security, of stability, of safety, drawing it up the body slowly, just like a water rising in a vessel, feeling that energy slowly rising up through the body, saturating every cell as it moves its way upwards, nourishing every organ, every tissue and sinew, all of the circulatory systems of the body, seeping into the bones and the bone marrow, actively receiving as that energy moves up through the diaphragm, the rib cage, cradling, embracing the heart and the lungs, moving up through the upper chest, the throat, the neck, shoulders, flowing down the arms, up the palms of the hands, the tips of the fingers, rising up into the jaw, the tongue, the mouth, through all the bones and muscles of the face and the head, through the eyes and the eye sockets, nourishing your entire brain, cooling and soothing, relaxing any habituated patterns of thought or belief that may have been active in the system that need to receive some of this soothing, stabilizing energy to calm, to relax back into right thinking, right alignment, into the truth. And just allowing any clouds of confusion that may be here to simply be cleared away. And as that energy rises all the way up through the center of the head, it flows up and out like a geyser erupting from the earth. As that energy moves up and out, shooting upwards and then flowing back down in all directions in this sphere around the body, the toroidal field, energy flowing in the patterns of the field, helping to cleanse and clear anything that you've picked up along the way, have carried forward that is not yours to carry, simply offering it to the intelligence of this current that returns it all back to the earth, all back to life, to be thoroughly transmuted, and as it all settles back down to the earth, once again feeling yourself arrive into the base of the spine, to the pelvic bowl, returning to that sense of rest, of held by the earth, by that which is far greater than this little body and all of its concerns and the human confusion that it experiences along the way, letting it all rest and be held by this greater body of the earth. Allowing the nervous system to rest into her body. And inviting a deeper receptivity that from this spaciousness, the static can clear. We can receive the pure, clear signal of our soul's wisdom that is attempting to reach us moment by moment, guiding us onto the path that is right and true, correct for each and every one of us. And it is our responsibility to make space to be able to receive and perceive this wisdom that is always here for us. So may we receive this responsibility as a source of power that we have in our agency to tune ourselves regardless of what's happening around us, what's happening in the world, of how we even feel in each moment, that this ability is here for us to tune ourselves back into center, back into receptivity, into coherence with our soul's essence, and to choose to respond to that wisdom and to follow it to the best of our ability in each moment with integrity and with grace. And from this spaciousness, staying connected to the sense of rest at the ground of your being, resting into the ground of the earth, held by all of life. We allow the eyes to softly, gently open into the space, to this shared space. And I hand the baton over to Matt to bring forward his transmission. Thank you.
Delightful. Thank you so much. So, for those of you who have been on the calls where I've led transmission, you know I like to do theory and practice. So I want to share a few ideas about receiving your soul's guidance, and then we'll go into a practice where we can employ that directly. So this is right square in what I'm doing in my PhD work. So I've explored this topic a lot, and I want to share some concepts with you to clarify and also to bring some inspiration into the conversation with your soul, because the truth of it is that the soul is a repository of all the answers and the insight and the motivation that we really need. It has the wisdom that is deeply and intensely desired in those moments where life is uncomfortable. Now, it doesn't mean that the information or the inspiration that we will receive will necessarily be directly inspiring. It may be a hard lesson we have to learn or some other type of thing we weren't expecting, but there are answers in any given moment, and especially the moments that we need. Those answers are there and they're present for us and waiting for us. Now, there's a bit of a distinction we want to make, because as people go into a process of what we might loosely call tuning in, tuning in happens in a bunch of different levels of our awareness. So it can happen at the level of instinct, where you have a very distinct body knowing, and that body knowing is more on the animal side of who we are, a very important part of our wisdom data streams. But it's not going to have the taste, the insight, the wisdom, and the flavor of the soul. That is the animal aspect of who we are, responding to our environment, trying to keep us safe, utilizing that instinctual abilities to sense and track what is off in our very local time and space. And then the next step would be intuition. So intuition is going to have more of a flavor of the transcendent beyond the mind, but it's also going to employ the mind quite a bit. So there is often a coupled process of transcendent insight with thinking that happens when intuition comes online. And that thinking is usually the process we have to learn to quiet because we think so much. So, if we really want a true soul level insight, we have to find a process to relax the mind enough so that we don't go into this dialogical process, this process of either or, back and forth, that is just happening in the mind. And that can be tricky, it can be subtle, it can be nuanced. And then the last of those three layers that we're going to look at is really the true connection with the soul. And in that, the mind thinks very little. It just acts as open, receptive portal. And the functions of the mind, the utility of the mind to be able to interpret will still be on board, but it's not going to be active in a way that we, as a personal, finite being in a body bound by time and space, are going to be interpreting it. And what I've found over, 15 years plus of working with people and 20,000 sessions of coaching and healing with people is that getting to a place where the mind is open and relaxed and receptive is the bulk of the work here. And then getting into a place where we can recognize the voice of the soul and start to form a dialogue. And in the drop of a hat, we can be in that place where we can relax the mind, be receptive, suspend judgment, suspend any kind of meaning making, and just be in reception. That's the work. So, with all of that as preface, I want to share three different ways that we can do that. And the third is what will be our transmission and practice today. So, the categories, and again, this is work that I'm specifically looking at for what I'm doing in my PhD schooling program. The three categories that I want to engage today are what I would call the transcendent, the esoteric, and then the contemplative. So we'll start with the contemplative first, and I would probably call it contemplative adjacent. So the contemplative path of spirituality and spiritual awakening is that we are in deep study with teachers, with texts, with our own kind of way that we operate with wisdom, the wisdom traditions, wisdom teachers, and others who have come before us on the path. So part of that we learn to turn on is writing. And when we write from a place similar to what I was describing, where the mind is relaxed and it's just in the receiving and transmitting of information. So there's a type of writing that we learn to engage where data is moving through us onto paper, or in this modern age, onto screen, but the mind is open. And we are portal, we are transmission, we are vessel for information to move through us. This is very much how I wrote my book. When I decided it was time to write, every day that I would get in a posture, I would literally put my keyboard in my lap, recline into my chair, put my feet up on the desk, and just wait until words happened. And that experience of words happening allowed me to have the feeling that I was being written through. And really, everyone can do this once we get to a point where the mind relaxes enough. So the contemplative practice of talking to soul is essentially that. And this is also borrowed from a book called Big Mind, Big Heart. This is Geshe Michael Roach. No, Geshe Genpo Mertzel. Sorry, different teacher. And he's a Zen teacher. And what he found in his training with his students is that if he employed a technique actually from psychology called voice dialogue, that he could take beginning students and have them receive answers that were indistinguishable from advanced practitioners who had been in the work for years or decades. And this process of voice dialogue is essentially a direct query of these aspects of self that are already illumined and awakened. It's a very simple process, but the simplicity again is met by learning how to relax into the receiving of the information. So in the contemplative path, literally what you're going to do is set a timer for 15 or 20 minutes, and your job is to not take your pen off the page. You start with an invocation in a open, relaxed place. Maybe you've done a little breath work, maybe you've done a little meditation first to get to that place where the mind and body are settled, and you say or write, I would like to speak to the voice of my soul. Do I have permission to hear the wisdom of my soul? And you wait till there is a yes. And what you start to learn in this process is the voice of the soul is going to have a bit of a different kind of way that it speaks, a way that it feels, and a way that it lands in your awareness than if it was just your mind. And part of this process that you get to learn is the differentiating of those voices. Is this just me thinking, or is this the voice of my soul? And the way that we vet this in this contemplative practice is not taking our pen off the page and continually writing. Because part of what happens is we exhaust the mind by just continually writing. And all those voices that say, this is weird, I don't know if this is right, is this actually my soul? Is this is stupid? Oh, I just heard a sound over there. All of that gets to be extinguished through the writing. And then eventually you have a dialogue, and literally when I do this, I'll write soul speaks or just soul, and then whatever the soul's saying, and then me, I'll ask a question. So what does that mean in relationship to da 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 da? And then wait for the soul, and the soul says, oh, I'm glad that you asked that question. I would like to expound further. Here's exactly what I mean. And we do this until the timer goes off. And the reason that we set a timer is that one of the things that the mind does is it tells us, I think I'm done. And that's just one more of the voices of the mind that we get to override. So the practice here is when the timer goes off, you say, thank you. I appreciate this connection. When should I come back for more information? And you'll be surprised to hear that the soul will say, tomorrow, in 3 days, in a week, or you should do this once a month on the new moon, or whatever the soul has to say. And in this way, you start to set a relationship with your soul and the data that it wants to breathe into your life. And it becomes deeply satisfying and really a rich, rich source of direct wisdom. That's practice number one. That's contemplation. Practice number two is esoteric. So in many of the world traditions, they have split between what they call the exoteric, which is the standard doctrine, which is understood. It might be in Christianity, the Bible, or in Buddhism, the sutras. There is a standard corpus of accepted knowledge and wisdom. And the esoteric is the more mystical. It's those things that we do to have direct access to the wisdom of the universe. So in the esoteric, for a practice like this, I would start in a similar way. I would, whatever tool that I'm using, and I'll talk about tools in a moment, I would say, I am querying the direct wisdom of the soul. I would like to speak with the soul. Do I have permission to speak with my soul? And wait until I got that yes. And once I have that yes, then I go about this practice, this ritual, this engagement with the deep wisdom of the universe that I'm going to channel through this practice. So the tools that we can use are, you might use like a deck, like a tarot deck, or some sort of insight deck. There's hundreds of those out on the market now. You might use the I Ching. You might use, there's all kinds of traditions in Europe and other places where they read things like tea leaves, they read bones, they read sticks. There's ways that this has been translated into dice. But basically, what we want is an object that we can imbue with our awareness and our energy, and we can engage with that in a way that invites insight from the universe into an objective physical thing. And basically, I'll take the example of a deck because probably many of you watching this are going to have a deck of some sort. The way that I do this is I'll spread the deck out in front of me. I'll open up the sensitivity of my body. I'll ask a question and then I'll run my hand over the deck until it feels like something turns on in my heart. The energy opens more, the energy relaxes more. There's energy in my hand that I can specifically sense over this card. And I'll pull that, keep it face down. I'll ask my next question. And I'll usually ask 3 to 4 questions. And then as I turn the cards over, I'll sit in contemplation of that card. And I may read, and if there's a book that, a corresponding book, I may read the passage, staying in a very relaxed and open state. But then I'll also sit and wait for other data. If there's information that I don't understand, I'll ask for a clarifying card. Same practice. Wait till you feel the energy, grab that card, and then turn over. As you become more sophisticated in this, again, we'll take the example of tarot. There's a number of different configurations of draws that you can do. There's ways that you can use the upright and the inverted cards. So you can complexify this in all manner of ways. That's practice number 2. So our practice today is really going to be the transcendent practice. And this is the practice where we take our awareness right up into the soul and we have direct communion, direct integration, direct access. We drink directly from the source. Now, the gift of this is immediate information, a way to start that dialogue so that you can open up that kind of window of consciousness in any given moment, whether you're waiting in the store, in the grocery store, at the line in the checkout, or you're in a heated debate with someone and you need instant wisdom, or you're just relaxing and driving and want to have a conversation with the deepest and most real and timeless part of you. And the challenge of this is that we have to have cultivated attention and awareness that's less shakable than most people have. So this comes from our contemplative practices and our meditation practices, really. We need to have that so the mind's not getting jostled by thoughts popping in and other things happening. One of the beautiful reasons that I want to offer it here is that when we do it together, we get to leverage all of our energy. We get to leverage the group field. And for those of us who are in solo practice, solo spiritual practice, that's something we don't get access to a lot. And in traditional religious practice, it's something they get access to a lot, but in my estimation, something they don't leverage quite as much as I think would be really beneficial. So, one of the great gifts of doing things like this is that we get to work in these fields together. So, we're going to do this today as a guided practice. I'll be guiding us. And one of the threads of awareness I'm going to invite you into is noticing the energy of everyone in the practice of contemplation, in the same awareness, in the same question asking, and in the same kind of plucking the threads of those specific nodes of the universe. And everyone who's going to watch this over the next number of years as it goes up on YouTube, and people are pulling from that same timeless thread, plucking that same timeless cord, even though they're operating in a different time space in our linear chronological reality. So, with all that preface, I'm going to invite you to close your eyes. Notice the brain, the mind, having just taken a big bite of information. And maybe it needs to chew that for a moment. Take any of its last chewing movements as it digests and relaxes and opens. And for the next 3 breaths, at the bottom of the breath, at the end of the exhale, I'm going to ask you to hold for 5 seconds and notice the profound stillness. And as I continue to talk, listen to me with one ear and have the rest of the attention on the body. Noticing that if you relax the muscles of the face, of the scalp, the neck and shoulders, chest and arms, solar plexus and belly, and with each exhalation, you continue to relax. You notice all that energy that was dedicated to active attention settles like snow in a snow globe that was just returned to the shelf. All of that energy, all of that attention returns to stillness, returns to openness. You may feel the same thing beyond the physical body and in the energy bodies. You may notice as you do this, you condition the space in the room around you to be still as well. Now, as you reside in that stillness, I'm going to invite you to position your awareness in the base of the spine, and nice and slow to ride the elevator of consciousness, starting on the first floor at the root, noticing its dedication to survival, to vitality, to harnessing the energies of this material realm and turning them into life. Climbing to the second center, feeling the drive, the push, the pull, the creativity, the movement towards creation and propagation, the attraction, the magnetism, the rise and the fall. So much energy, so much striving and achieving. Riding the elevator to the third center, where we relate, connect, become part of social networks, become part of tribe, community. Riding the elevator into the heart, where we love, where we express, where we deeply commune with self, with other, with universe, and with God. Where we find our most fundamental individual self. Elevator climbs into the throat, where we use vibration to manifest our interior into the exterior world, where we express self out into the space around us with energy, action, intention, wisdom, care. Into the forehead, where we have deep insight, where we see through the veil of reality into reality as it truly is, beyond the illusion, beyond the Maya, touching into what is real. And then into the crown, deep-seated, powerful, awakened embodiment. All 7 centers acting as one unified whole, seamless and connected with all that is. And keep climbing beyond the crown. Let the elevator move 12 to 18 inches above the top of the head. Let your awareness rest in what some of the other systems would consider the 8th or 9th chakra. In Barbara Brennan's work, she might call the soul star. Other traditions have other names. But notice this aspect of self that has never entered the stream of time, does not exist just in this physical space. This is the eternal self, or the soul. And as you let your attention and awareness rest here, I'm going to invite you to sense and notice what you observe in this space as you hold your awareness in the eternal self. What is here? You may also notice how your more day-to-day typical self that you experience feels about this. Does it feel good to connect with this eternal aspect of you? This version of you, this aspect of you that has been there with you your entire life, and if you believe, through all of your lives. And I'm going to invite you to ask the question, Soul, do I have your permission to speak with you? If you receive a yes, excellent. If you received a no, the question that you can ask is, Soul, what would need to happen for me to have permission to speak with you? We'll assume for the sake of this practice that you received a yes, and as I sense into the group collective field, it feels like there's a lot of yeses out there. So I'm going to ask a series of questions that you, by proxy, can ask of your own soul. My dear soul, thank you for taking this time to connect with me. My first question is, what would you like of me today? You may notice the voice comes still and small ways, may come in a loud booming voice and a very clear voice in the mind or in the aspects beyond the mind. You might notice that it's almost as if you have to work with the soul to form the words. If this practice is new for you, that is very common, because this is a new type of listening and speaking that we're learning. Just acknowledge whatever information, insight, or wisdom you receive is a gift. Next question. Soul, what can I do to come even more in line with my life's mission? Soul, what beautiful thing do you have in store for me? And how can I move towards that? Soul, who do I know and love that needs me, that I should reach out to today? Hey, soul, the world feels a little chaotic right now. Please tell me how everything is going to be okay. Lastly, soul, I recognized I was born into this tumultuous and chaotic time of awakening of humanity and the planet. What is my most leveraged way to be a force of goodness, force of truth, force of beauty in the world? And now I'm going to invite you to receive this wisdom not just into the mind as a concept, all the way down into the body, without letting your attention leave the soul, 12 to 18 inches above the head. See the information moving down into the body, being experienced, absorbed, retained, and enacted. Feel how good it feels to be in dialogue with this highest aspect of self, and celebrate with a smile that you are one of the lucky people who have realized this truth. The vast majority of people never engage this source of wisdom in a deep and meaningful way. What a great gift that we all have been given from soul, universe, cosmos, God, that we have this connection to strengthen and this wisdom to receive. Soul, thank you for your guidance today. I deeply cherish our connection and love that we get to be on this journey together as one in connection, as one in union. Soul, when is the next time I should connect with you? Thank you, thank you, thank you. Honors, blessings. I like to imagine an offering of flowers, beautiful scents and fragrances, energy, good intentions laid at the altar of my soul as I ride the elevator back down into the body, into the waking mind, into my 3D sense perceiving, knowing that that connection is never severed, is always there. Wisdom is a well that never runs dry, and I can return anytime I like. I'm going to keep us in this state for Amber to consecrate this practice with a prayer.
We pray that moment by moment, breath by breath, step by step on this path of this life, that our soul continues to flow into our minds, our hearts, our bodies to guide us, to inform us, to bring us into accord with our soul's charge of who and what we are in truth, what we are here to bring in service to this realm. May we continually be tuned to be receptive, to be able to perceive this guidance that is here for us. And again, may we follow it steadfastly with each step, with determination, with all that we have. May we each be a lighthouse, a guiding light in this time of ever-increasing chaos, to help to bring peace, to be a soothing balm. And may we receive all that we need in this process to continue to be fortified. Thank you. And so it is.